Good morning. Welcome to Tuesday morning's morning briefing from the Celtic Way. Stuff to chat about today. Tomorrow, we face Bayern Munich in our first Champions League knockout tie in 13 years. Ryan will definitely get into that today. I sense a lot of people will want to chat about that. We also have some big news last night. If you had an early night, you might have missed it. I think to be fair, it probably broke about 9, something like that. So I'm guessing most people will have seen it, but maybe not. If not, I'm about to make your day, make your week, make your year. Daizen Maeda is able to play against Bayern Munich tomorrow night. Celtic appealed the 2-match suspension that he was given after being sent off against Young Boys. So it's down to 1 match now, and he's already served that match. So he's free to face Bayern tomorrow evening. We also had confirmation of summer signing Celtic are going to make. And I won't even say who it is yet, just to keep you hanging on. Again, you'll know, but we can get into that. Financial figures, interim figures released yesterday. A Scottish Cup draw as well. It was all happening last night, Ryan. And obviously the small matter of tomorrow's game as well.
It was, it was such a quiet afternoon. And then, apart from Alistair Johnson quotes that came out, he did his press conference yesterday. And then all of a sudden, after 5 o'clock, it seemed like all the news stories were coming. It was a bit of a late one because I was waiting for the end of the St Mirren Hearts game to see who Celtic would get in the quarterfinals. I know we'll probably speak about that later on.
Who did we get, Ryan?
Hibs at home, another home draw. People will be shouting conspiracies, but Celtic have got another home draw. It's about time that Celtic get these home draws because it felt as if for years Celtic got these tricky away ties. So maybe it's evening itself out this season. But yeah, a good draw for Celtic. I would say a difficult draw because Hibs are a better team than the team that they've faced in previous months. I think they've stabilised under David Gray. But it's a home draw, and I think the fact against Hibs, a team that want to play football, should actually play into the hands of Celtic because they'll leave spaces at the back. But yeah, it was all systems go after about 5 o'clock yesterday with the interim report, waiting on the draw. The Daizen Maeda story was a bit of a revelation that came out of nowhere. We didn't know that Celtic were even appealing the decision. I didn't hear anything about it, and that came out. And I don't know about you, but I felt a bit of a surge online. There was a bit of confidence. I don't know where it's came from. Daizen Maeda, Celtic's informed player. Everybody just seems to be up for this game now. That was the shot in the arm I think the Celtic supporters needed. The fact that they've got Maeda in the team, such an important player, and he's going to be ready to face Bayern Munich. Delighted with that.
Yeah, it's huge news, and we will get on to it. Just to cover a few of the things you said. So you're right, Celtic versus Hibernian. I believe it's March the 8th or 9th. That will clearly be on TV. Quite possibly 5:30 on Saturday again. That seems to be the chosen route that Premier Sports go down. So yeah, Hibs I think are probably the toughest team we could have faced, to be honest. Looking at the other teams, Aberdeen are
I was going to make the same point, Hamish.
But I think the fact it's at Celtic Park is a huge thing. We had Hibs actually in the League Cup, didn't we, at Celtic Park, and dealt with them pretty handily. But I think that's going to be a cracker. I think that's a really good game to look forward to because it's a cup game. I'm guessing Hibs, the way they're playing at the moment, will have a good support at Celtic Park, probably a couple of thousand, if not more. So I'm looking forward to that. The other ties, Aberdeen got Queen's Park, Hearts versus Dundee, and Livingston versus St Johnstone. So one of Livingston or St Johnstone are going to be at Hampden in the semi-finals. So yeah, things are going nicely, Ryan. I think a home draw is what you want, and I mean Celtic are pretty unbeatable at home in any competition, to be honest. But certainly domestically, I guess that'll be put to the test on Wednesday night. But pleased about that. Where do you want to go next, Daizen Maeda? I guess it's just such good news, but I guess the fact that it's such good news is because we didn't see it coming. I think we had all resigned ourselves to the fact Maeda wasn't going to play. I don't think anyone outside the club even knew the club were appealing it. I didn't even know the club could appeal it, to be honest. I'm not kind of au fait with the UEFA disciplinary procedures and appeals and all that stuff. So I and Brendan Rodgers gave no clue on that either on Sunday. So the club have played a blinder here. I think it's the right decision because I felt a 2-match ban was pretty harsh given, what Maeda actually did, which was kind of recklessly kick out at someone. But the ball was there as well. I felt the 2 matches on top of the red card was a bit much. So I'm glad to see that justice has prevailed. And yeah, it's huge. It's huge having Daizen back. I know it's Bayern Munich we're playing, but, Daizen can hurt them. We were all saying that when we knew he was out, so we can say it now that we know he's going to play.
Yeah, Alistair Johnson yesterday was talking about Daizen Maeda and saying it was a bummer that he can't play in this game. So all of his quotes are rendered useless at this point. But he was positively speaking about his teammates, saying that he's a nightmare to defend against in training, and that's the sort of nightmare that you want him to be bringing the Bayern Munich defence, both the attack and the defence, because you want him to be pressing the attack as well as really being a nuisance for the defence. It's not just that his defensive capabilities are so good. He's actually Celtic's most informed player at the moment. He's a top goal scorer as of late. I think out of their last 14 goals that they've scored, Daizen Maeda scored something like 6 or 7 of them. So a lot of goals are coming from him.
Probably assists as well, eh?
Yeah,
probably
assists. His numbers are just absolutely brilliant, and it shows an improvement under Brendan Rodgers. I think he's really improved Daizen Maeda. He's allowed him to become a better player. He was really good under Ange Postecoglou, and there's got to be credit given to him for bringing him to the club. But I think that Brendan Rodgers has pushed him on a level. He's now doing less of the silly things. He's only making 1 or 2 of those mistakes a game, whereas before, I think he would maybe run the ball out the park 4 or 5 times in a game. He'd take the good with the bad. Now you don't really need to talk about the bad because it's not happening as much, and it's more good things that are happening. I just think he's so effective. I've got to say I've been proven wrong by him completely. I thought he'd be one of the first players to leave when Brendan Rodgers came back. I thought he was a system player under Ange Postecoglou. He's actually probably been Celtic's most improved player under Brendan Rodgers, you could say.
Yeah.
Out with, maybe some of the other players like Alistair Johnson as well. But I think Maeda's right up there. And it shows how willing he was to improve as a player under Brendan Rodgers. He signed that contract so soon after Rodgers coming into the club. That showed that he was behind his manager. And yeah, he's just been absolutely tremendous over the past couple of seasons.
Most improved player for me, most improving player still. That's the thing about it always gets me when people talk about Daizen Maeda, because they have in their head that he's this kind of older guy, and I think it was when he used to have no hair. But he's he's 27 now, but there's a couple of weeks between Daizen Maeda and Real Hatate, and I guarantee you people feel differently about Hatate and Maeda in terms of people still look at Hatate these days and go, he's kind of a young player, he's got these levels still to go. Maeda's like pretty much the exact same age, as I say, a couple of weeks in them, and he's just improving so much. I think even over the past couple of months he's come on, and he's so confident now. That's the thing, and he could genuinely hurt Bayern. It's really just so exciting to have him, and he's clearly going to start the game. I guess Paul's saying excellent news about Maeda, gives us more of a chance. Francis saying pretty much the exact same. I guess Jason is asking the question here, and Caden saying similar thing. Where does Maeda start? My sense is it will be in the left wing, and Ida will start, and then you'll have Kuhn clearly on the right, and then Jota as a potential sub to come on. I'm not against the idea of Maeda starting through the middle and going with Jota on the left and Kuhn on the right, because Maeda just through the middle, he actually looks so threatening, like based on the weekend, and you have real pace in that front three. I just think Brendan Rodgers really likes Ida, and I think Ida as our main striker, out and out striker, I think he'll start this game, and Jota's not up to speed fully yet. So that's what I think the manager will do, but it's a great kind of issue to have what you're going to do, because I think either could work.
Yeah. My head says that Ida will start through the middle. My heart says that Daizen Maeda will start through the middle and Jota will play on the left. I'm fine with either, to be honest. They're both good options for Celtic to have. I think in the away game, Ida will start up front for sure, because you need that out ball. You need a bit of physicality up front. Even though he's not really that sort of player, he's a bit of a hybrid between a player with a low centre of gravity and a sort of target man. He's in the middle. He really does. He's on that line of those two different play styles. But regardless of who, Maeda's in the team, Maeda's won his appeal. He will be there. He will be in the starting 11, regardless if he's on the left wing or playing through the middle. He will play. He's so important. I think if Celtic were more confident that the appeal was going to be successful, then Maeda wouldn't have played 90 minutes against the Raith Rovers on Saturday night. Maybe they're a bit surprised that he got that appeal successfully, or he successfully won that appeal and he's available for the game because he played the 90 minutes. He's been so good at that recently, and I would say that for both Japanese players that are at the club and Hatate, because he's become a more of a 90-minute player. I know he played, sort of 50, 60 minutes due to Paulo Bernardo coming off the pitch, but he's one of those players that comes off last in the midfield. It's usually other players. It's Engels that's maybe coming off, even McGregor in some games. He's now last in the course, and I think that's one of Brendan Rodgers' best achievements as Celtic manager, is the fact that he's turned Hatate into a 90-minute player. You've seen him rally in Champions League games towards the end as well. I think he was key in the Club Brugge result, getting something against Club Brugge, because he upped his level in the last 10, 15 minutes. The Leipzig game, he could keep it going for 90 minutes. So the fitness levels are clearly there for the Japanese boys. And yeah, they're still having such a big impact. But in terms of who I think it will be, I think it will be either up front and Maeda on the left. But it's a great conundrum to have, and it's a bit of an extra going into the game.
Yeah, I mean, Sean asking why are we so prepared to ditch Ida already needs to start for me. I mean, I talk up Adam Ida all the time, and Ida's in pretty good form at the moment. Really, scoring goals since Villa Park, wasn't it? He's been great. I think the obvious answer is that people just think so highly of the other three, and Maeda's. I mean, I was going to say Kuhn's our player of the season. Kuhn and Maeda are our two players of the season so far. Certainly two outfielders. And we all know how much everyone loves Jota. So I think that's the front three that excites everyone most, because, it just makes sense. Jota, Maeda, Kuhn. But I think the right decision here is to go with Maeda on the left to play Ida. Someone else made the point about Ida's confidence. And I think, Ida's in a good place at the moment, and he is our main striker. As I say, out and out striker. You start him in a big game like this because I think he can do damage. And then you've got someone like Jota off the bench who can really impact the game. I think that's a huge knock-on effect of Maeda being available now, as you look to our bench and you're either going to have Jota or Ida coming off the bench. I'm pretty sure he'll start with Ida, so you'll have Jota coming off the bench. And that's huge for us against potentially tiring Bayern legs. Jota could be electric for us off the bench. Kuhn could be electric from the start. Maeda's pretty clearly going to, be doing the usual things, the pressing, the running in behind. So, I'm intrigued with how much, and I ask you, Ryan, ask everyone else, how much people's confidence has gone up by that news. I mean, we hear, I mean, I should point out at this point, Tony's spoke to Derek Ray, hell of a guest to get on, and people can check that video out. Once we are done here, I'll remind you at the end, on the Celtic Way YouTube channel. I watched most of it earlier. It's brilliant. Derek Ray's just exceptional. But one point he did make is Bayern have a very high line. Like, that's a kind of real trademark of them under Vincent Kompany. And I'm feeling like that could be quite good for us with the pace we have running in behind.
I've watched Bayern Munich a lot over the past couple of years, and it seems like a lot of their mistakes defensively. Now, I don't know if he maybe just catches the eye due to the way that he plays, due to the fact that he's a ball-playing defender. Dayo Upamecano has got a mistake in him. He's a good centre-back. He covers the ground well. He's a French international, but he's got a mistake in him. And him alongside Kim Min-jae, who you can get something out of if you continue to press him. He is looking good this season, but last season he was one of...
Is he at Napoli?
He was the player that was at Napoli the season before. He then signed for Bayern Munich after Napoli won the Scudetto, and they had a bit of a torrid time making mistakes. I think he gets sent off in the Champions League as well, I seem to remember. They've also got Ito, who's a Japanese centre-back who came from Stuttgart, although he's been injured. He's not even made his competitive debut. He played for Stuttgart and that team that won second place last season in the Bundesliga. But I look at Upamecano. I've watched him so many times. I've watched him for Leipzig. I've watched him for Bayern Munich. he can be got at the likes of Ida and Maeda. That's the player that you target in that back line. I'm not sure exactly who's going to play in the back line for Bayern Munich. I don't know
Well,
if Kimmich
just
right back,
just to interrupt you briefly, I'm just looking on the Bayern and Germany Twitter page, and this is, by the way, great for anyone for it, all the information in Bayern, and they're posting that the A team that trained yesterday was Neuer, Sasha Boy, who's a player Celtic were linked with a few years ago, at right back, Upamecano, Kim, Guerrero, Kimmich, Goretzka, Elise, Musiala, Coman, and Kane. So if that's the kind of team that was training together on Monday, you would probably have to think that would be the team that would probably play for them. Who's their normal right back? I'm trying to think who they're missing.
Kimmich usually plays at right back. Alphonso Davies plays as well on both wings. I know he's injured at the moment. He might return for the game at the Allianz Arena. Guerrero's quite versatile.
Laimer as well. I think Laimer
he can play in defensive midfield too. But you've got Kimmich, who is no stranger to playing at right back, although he's kind of did a Philip Lahm and become a defensive midfielder over the past couple of years. Very versatile player. Arguably, he's the player that makes Bayern tick in that midfield because he's such an intelligent footballer. But look at it's just household names. Even Michael Elise, who was tearing it up for Crystal Palace last season, he's taken to Bayern like a duck to water. He's now adding more goals to his game. The danger man's Musiala. I know Harry Kane is the big name. Everybody will know him from Tottenham Hotspur. You've got to keep Musiala quiet. He is, with Jude Bellingham and Pedri and Gavi, one of the best young midfielders in the world. That's the sort of ballpark that you're in with him. If you keep him quiet, you can essentially keep Bayern quiet, although they've got other players in and around the team. But he is the diamond in that team, and he's very difficult. And Scotland know all about how not to keep him quiet. He's just a fantastic young player, and they'll try and play through him, basically.
Yeah, just a wee schedule for today, by the way. Bayern, again, this is from this account, Bayern will train today, 12:30 Celtic Park time, still in Germany. We'll have them departing, I believe, about 5 p.m. or 4 p.m, sorry, that will be, I think, 7:30. Vincent Kompany and Manuel Neuer are due to speak to the media at Celtic Park, and 3 o'clock, I believe, for Brendan Rodgers. And I think we'll get a Celtic player as well, even though Alistair Johnson spoke yesterday. I think you're right, though. I mean, Musiala's the one. I mean, anyone who saw the Euros in the summer will know what an unbelievable player he is, and he's just so good in tight areas. So we're going to have to find a way, whether it's Callum McGregor or Engels, to just really get tight. You can't allow him to play because he will pick you apart. I remember him against Scotland in that opening game. He was excellent. Harry Kane, apparently not maybe doing too well at the moment. I think he's scoring a lot of penalties, maybe not a lot other than that. But then, guys like Leroy Sané and Michael Elise, who people will probably know from Crystal Palace. And you might take a look at the fact he was at Crystal Palace and think, that's all right. But, he's a world-class right winger. So, right, let's not do too much of this, because we were getting the belief going, Ryan, and now we're suddenly discussing how good Bayern Munich are and could be. But listen, it's going to be a hell of an achievement if we manage it tomorrow night. Let's move on to the financial stuff. Yesterday, Celtic released the interim reports. This is for the final 6 months of 2024. I'll try and make this sound like I know what I'm talking about. So yeah, in terms of the key kind of finances here, revenue has gone down by 2.1% to 83.5 million. It was up at 85.2 in the year before. Profit from transfer of player registrations has gone up 21.5 million. Profit before tax is 44 million. We spent 28 million on players, and the end cash for that period is 65 million. It was 67 million a year before. I think it was explained by Peter Lawwell in his kind of lengthy statement, the reasons for that. There's just variations basically, but it's very similar numbers. The big news that Peter Lawwell confirmed in this was that the club have signed Kieran Tierney for next season. So we now have that confirmed by Celtic, which had been confirmed by Brendan Rodgers previously. It's been confirmed by Celtic. So that's really good news.
It's very good news, and it was the main thing that jumped out. And I won't say that I'm too in the know with what all the financials mean. I'm not going to pretend that I know everything about that. But from the way that it was getting worded in the statement, it looks as if Celtic are in one hell of a place financially. And you look at the improvements that have been made to the first team, and there's not been that much hit on the financials, only a couple of million here and there of a loss. That's incredible business, and the board do get a lot of stick. That's you're always going to get stick as a board for a football club because people are going to strive for perfection all the time. But the way that the club is being run, especially recently with the transfers that are being made, with the financials that the club have got at the moment, it is really an incredible position for Celtic to be in, and they're really sustainable. It's sustainable wealth. They're only going to make more money as the years go on because of player asset trades. And bringing players in, bringing better players in and then selling them on again. I think you're starting to see that with the likes of Engels, Jota coming back, Kuhn coming into the club. These players will get sold on for more when the time comes, but they're important assets on the pitch just now before they become good sales off of it. So the club's in a tremendous position. Great to hear that Kieran Tierney's back. Good to see that that's in writing as well, because Brendan Rodgers mentioned it down in Birmingham before the Aston Villa game. I'm glad that that's in writing. People don't need to worry about, is he going to sign? They're just waiting on the right time to announce it. I think they're making it all right with Arsenal. He's still in the midst of a bit of a, maybe a title race, depending on the way, on how early Liverpool can get it wrapped up down south. He's still involved in a title race with Arsenal. He'll be wanting to focus on that before going to his next club, back to his former club in Celtic. But yeah, a great position for them to be in financially. The financials are looking good, and you're really sustainable for the future. It's a real positive time to be covering Celtic with the way that they're looking both on and off the park at the moment. That was a bit of a flex yesterday, bringing that out. There's been a lot of talk about financials, gaps between teams. For Celtic to just put that out, I know that it's round about this time to do that anyway, but just the timing felt that little bit sweeter yesterday. Just bring it out, show that you've got £44 million worth of profit, 65 million in cash reserves. Yeah, it's a pretty good place to be in for the club at the moment.
And I think the thing is that it just feels like that's just going to continue to go, as you say. Clearly, the big difference next year is we don't have automatic Champions League football. We're going to have to come through a qualifier, assuming that we hold on and win the league. So that's going to be a big tie, a lot of money at stake for the club. But yeah, everything's going up. We're getting more money. Basically, I think what is happening is what fans have wanted for ages is the club not to go completely mad like they did across the city 15 years ago, but just to show a bit of belief, and speculate to accumulate to an extent, and really build a team, because everything follows on from that. Every single good thing you're seeing about Celtic right now is because the club went out and got a top manager in Brendan Rodgers to follow another top manager, Ange Postecoglou, and the club have spent money to bring quality into the club. Everything you see on the pitch, the rewards we're getting in Europe, the money we're making from this Champions League, especially getting to this knockout round and potentially even further, is huge. The fan base is so engaged. I thought the crowd on Saturday was immense.
It was.
For a game against lower league opposition. I mean, I saw the highlights from Ibrox and it looked dead. And our game, which was also on TV, looked packed to me. I know it maybe wasn't a sellout, but the crowd for that game was brilliant. So the Celtic support are just so engaged, and that just comes from seeing the club showing a bit of belief to try and make Celtic as good as we can be. I think they can do it more, to be honest, with that money we have in the bank. I'm not going back into, not signing a striker and all of that stuff, but I think the club need to keep pushing forward and maybe even go a step beyond what we've paid so far, because I think you're going to get all this stuff back, because we have so much money in the bank, but we also have so many players in our current squad that are going to go for big money at some stage.
Yeah, and it helps that you've got a manager that wants the best for the club as well, and he wants them to improve as much as possible, because it looks good on him. If he's winning trophies and he's getting these good players in, then it reflects well on him. He's pushing he's pushing Celtic to spend more and more in the transfer window because he'll see more than anybody else the potential in the squad. Yes, he's developing the players that are already there. You're seeing improvements in loads of different players, but he's also wanting to bring in the best individuals for Celtic to compete at this level. You know, without the likes of Engels, without the likes of Trusty, who you spent big money for those players, Ida as well, Kasper Schmeichel will be big in wages. Without these players, Celtic wouldn't have made the playoff round. So you do speculate to accumulate by bringing these players in. By bringing them in, it's a different level. They're more acclimatised to European football. Yes, some of them haven't played in Europe, but they've played in the Premier League and they've played in the Bundesliga as well. So every second, third week, they'll be coming up against a Champions League quality side. So having that exposure to playing against good teams can only help the other players that are in and around the team. And I think it's just a great mix at the moment. You've got good young players, got a good blend of experience as well. You've got players that were young players that are now experienced, like Fatati, Jota, Cameron Carter-Vickers, etc., Alistair Johnson. With every season that they play in Europe, they become more experienced and they're better equipped for whatever these teams throw at them. So it's a really good mix. And those players that are coming in, if they've never sampled European football before, they only need to look to the guys next to them and they can be inspired knowing that that'll be me in a couple of years if I get that exposure to the Champions League. It's not as if you're throwing in 8, 9, 10 players for the first time in the Champions League. There's actually steady growth in the team, that there isn't as many newbies coming into the team. Like, you've only got maybe Austin Trusty and Arnott Engels that have never played European football, whereas they can rely on the likes of Carter-Vickers, McGregor, Johnson, Taylor, etc. It's a good mix, and I just think the squad's in a really good place. I just want them to continue to keep on pushing on, and if they do that, then they'll be in a great place.
That's 100% for me. You know, there's only one direction we can go. Keep pushing on. If you stay still, you're going backwards. And so, yeah, keep pushing. We're in such a good place. I mean, the European stuff has been a joy to watch. We're there's a fair chance we don't beat Bayern Munich in this tie. Sorry, everyone. I've changed my tune from yesterday when I was believing. I still believe, certainly tomorrow night something can happen, but there's a fair chance that our European journey ends at this stage, but it's still, regardless of what happens, it's still been a success in Europe, given where we've been in previous years, obviously. And the domestic stuff, we're going to be, real favourites to go and win the treble now, but keep pushing on going forward, because that's the thing I'm trying to get across, is that this money's only going to keep going up, and we might soon get to the stage where Celtic can pay £20 million for a player. Now, I know that might seem a bit off. It might be 5 years away. It might be 10 years away. But I think if you keep pushing forward, you can potentially bridge certain gaps, and then maybe the conversation happens. It might already be happening about Scottish football and Celtic just being so far ahead of every other team. But it's a good place to be, and I think everyone is so excited about Wednesday night. Yeah, Wazza Boy telling us about the official match ball that's been. This is horrible. Latest ball pays tribute to Munich. Ahead of us playing Bayern Munich. That's because the finals in Munich in May. So I guess extra motivation for Bayern. You must be looking forward to going along tomorrow night. I'm pretty jealous, I must say. It's a huge one. Huge game.
It's just an aesthetically pleasing game as well.
Yeah.
Celtic versus Bayern Munich. It ticks every single box. You know that Celtic are going to bring the atmosphere. The supporters, they'll come in their droves. The Bayern Munich fans will be coming over from Bavaria in Germany.
Yeah, 3,000.
They'll make one hell of a noise. And it's just going to be a cauldron of noise. Champions League. I cannot wait for that Champions League anthem. It was really loud last time out against Young Boys at home. It'll be even louder knowing that it's Bayern Munich coming to town. I think it's just going to be... I don't know the way the game is going to go. It's one of those ones that's right up in the air. I think if Celtic play to their best and Bayern Munich maybe have a bit of an off night, then something special could happen, especially in the first leg of the game being at home. But, right now we can speculate on anything because the game's not here yet. We can dream of Celtic getting a famous result against Bayern Munich. They were so close to getting a draw last time against them, then they scored late on. Remember Callum McGregor's goal? That was one of the greatest so-called limbs of of Celtic in European football. It was a great moment, but they couldn't hold on at the end. I'm just looking forward to the game tomorrow. This is the exciting part because you're building up to it. You're hearing the press conferences, you're hearing what Brendan Rodgers is saying about the game, and then tomorrow just takes care of itself. You're clock watching and you're waiting for that clock to go down. until you're ready to go to the game. I'm just excited for the whole thing. It's a pleasure to be a part of, to be honest. And Celtic deserve to be there for the results that they got in the league phase. They're there on merit, and they're flying the flag for Scottish football in Europe at the top table.
Can't wait for it. For anyone wondering, I don't know if you are, Bayern won't be wearing their red kit tomorrow night. I did read there's a bit of a kind of weird thing going on. I also read, I think that they're wearing their black, possibly third kit or European away kit. It's the one they wore when they lost to Aston Villa. That might be the last time they wore it.
Is that the black and purple one?
I'm just looking at it now. It's black and grey and pink. The kind of details on it, the numbers, the Adidas stripes are pink. It's actually quite a nice kit, but I believe that's what they're going to be wearing tomorrow. We'll obviously be in hoops. Right, we're going to head, everyone, but the chat is going to continue because I would certainly urge you to go and check out the chat that Tony had recently with German football expert, commentator, and many more things, Derek Ray, and Derek Ray knows German football and Bayern Munich better than most, and he's always so interesting to listen to. And I think Tony spoke to him for 40 minutes, so please go and check that out if you're hyped for the game and want to be even more hyped and learn more about Bayern. It's on our channel.
Yeah, he was right about Arne Engels as well. When I spoke to him in August, he said that when he's fit and firing, he will walk Scottish football. He'll be a standout. And it's taken him a bit to get to that, but Derek Ray was right once again with a player. So I think he talks about Arne Engels, and I've still to listen to it personally. I think he speaks about Arne Engels as well. So I'm going to social that out on our social feeds. But yeah, please check it out. Derek Ray is a class act, and so is Tony. So I'm sure it's a good chat between the two of them. 40 minutes long, as you said. So perfect preview for the upcoming game.
Yeah, so that's on our feed. It won't be in the live tab because it was just put out as a video, but you'll be able to find it. And yeah, we'll head off. Plenty more going on the website, celticway.co.uk. If you want to subscribe, you can do /subscribe to get involved ahead of the big game. And we're just counting down, everyone. What are we at now? I believe, very quick maths, I think we're at 33 hours and 25 minutes. Well done, Hamish.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I'll catch up with you tomorrow as we continue our build up to the big game.